President Pranab Mukherjee has dismissed a long-standing speculation that he was aspiring to become the interim Prime Minister after Indira Gandhi's assassination, terming the claims as false and spiteful. He's also said that allegations created misgivings in Rajiv Gandhi's mind. Talking about circumstances that led to his ouster from Rajiv's cabinet and then from the party, Mukherjee admitted to have sensed Rajiv's growing unhappiness and hostility of those around him. He added that Rajiv let others influence him and listen to their. All right, let's cut across to Javed Mustafa Ansari, our executive editor, giving us more details on this. You know, Javed, well, this is information for many there, because if you do go back with what had happened around those years, and you'd be the best, person to tell us about it, Pranab Mukherjee somewhere down the line clearing the air, at least from his account.
Well, clearing the air from his account and also giving the benefit of doubt to Rajiv Gandhi. He says, yes, he's been very factual, whether it is with regard to the misunderstandings that developed between him and Rajiv Gandhi, and also on the question of Babri Masjid, then on the question of economic reforms. He says Rajiv Gandhi made mistakes because he listened to his advisors. I too made mistakes. Perhaps I should have reached out and tried to explain and address some of the concerns that Rajiv Gandhi had. So if I have a copy of that book with me, Preeti, and I've gone through it, and whatever little I know of President Mukherjee, I've been covering him for the last 20 years now. He's a conservative. He's an old-fashioned politician. He will never say or do anything that rocks the boat. He's been factual when it comes to where it comes to his relations with Rajiv Gandhi. He's been factual about the developments which leading up to the demolition of the Babri Masjid and events after that. And he's been factual about his relationships with Narasimha Rao. He blames him for enacting. I mean, he says perhaps he could have done a lot more to prevent the demolition of the Babri Masjid. Praises him for economic reforms. Praises him for the kind of courage that he showed, and for the kind of person that he was. He goes on to mention that I was amongst the few people who was in touch with him right till Narasimha Rao's death, and that in his death I lost a valued colleague and a dear and a very close personal friend.
But Javed, till now, he's been very tempered with his revelations. He's not, been forthright, cleared the air on a lot of things, even in his first memoir, which could have been explosive because those were the Indira years. But, these revelations, the fact that he sensed Rajiv Gandhi's unhappiness with him, the hostility around him, all of this, there was a lot of speculation at that time, wasn't it, Javed?
Indeed there was, and in fact a result of which Pranab Mukherjee was made to leave the Congress party. He went on to form his own party. Of course he came back after a while, but yes, so you can understand, judge how the level of misunderstanding and the misgiving there was. But all that again I say is water under the bridge. He came back, worked with Rajiv Gandhi, worked extremely closely with Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, and ultimately Though she chose chose Dr. Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister over a lot of other people. The fact was that Pranab Mukherjee was a voice that carried tremendous amount of weight with her, and in times of crisis, he was perhaps the first number that she dialed.
Stay on with us, Javed, because well, that is what he had said about Rajiv Gandhi. On the other hand, the political blame game over Babri Masjid has re-emerged with Pranab Mukherjee's book. In the second volume of his memoir, The Turbulent Years, he said that it was the then Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao's inability to prevent the demolition of the Babri Masjid that was his biggest failure. He adds that task of negotiation should have been given to more senior politicians like N.D. Tiwari, as the then Home Minister S.B. Chauhan did not have full grasp of the emotive aspect. I'd like to cut across back to Javed. Javed, like you pointed out earlier, at least this part was common knowledge.
Yeah, this part was common knowledge, and the Congress paid a heavy price. In fact, many believe continues to pay a heavy price for what many perceived was the inaction on the part of Prime Minister Narasimha Rao and his Home Minister, the then Home Minister S.B. Chauhan. Many people still hold late Narasimha Rao responsible, or at least for not doing enough to prevent the demolition of the Babri Masjid. So there you have a factual narration of events. He says that he didn't do enough, and this was perhaps one of his biggest failures. But at the same time, he also talks of a situation where Sitaram Kesri created a very melodramatic scene and he started crying and weeping on the floor. And then Pranab Mukherjee says that I told him that all of you were ministers, members of the CCPA, members of the cabinet where these decisions were taken. So the responsibility, the onus cannot be alone that of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister alone. All members of the Union Cabinet must share the blame. Union Cabinet is all about collective responsibility. Again, a factual narration of events, not mincing words, but at the same time, careful not to rock the boat.
You know, but it's interesting, Javed, because all eyes now will be on that third edition of his memoir, because those will be the Sonia years, and one does wonder what Mr. Mukherjee has to say about having Dr. Manmohan Singh being picked over him as choice for Prime Minister.
Look, there is no denying the fact that Pranab Mukherjee felt that rightfully that job ought to have come to him by virtue of long years of experience, his service to the Congress party. But he reconciled to the fact. He was a very practical politician. He reconciled to the fact, and they had a excellent Mrs. Gandhi and Pranab Mukherjee had an excellent working relationship. She made him president. Let's not forget. So they had it may not have been a perfect relationship, but it was a very, very good relation. And she leaned on him heavily for advice, for his experience. He has an institutional memory. And all those who believe that perhaps once he demits office and when that third volume, if and when that third volume comes, he'll rock the boat, I'm not so sure. For whatever little I know of Pranab Mukherjee, he's not that person. He doesn't believe in rocking the boat, whether in office or outside. So he'll be proper. There will be some things newsworthy, but I don't think any skeletons are going to tumble out of the cupboard.
We appreciate you joining us, Javed. We are going to go into the other story that we're tracking, but continue to get reactions on this.
He's been stellar in his performance at Adelaide, unbeaten at 90. So we had a Virat Kohli fan in Pakistan, a Pakistani national, who then had Virat Kohli's posters out in a big way, and
when there is an issue of keeping the conscience of this nation, we will not go back from that. And I will not go back to the past to tell you what you have done. But we believe what we did is the right thing, and we will make sure that